Back when Boiling Point was first served to us, back in 2021, I, along with the rest of the world, thought it was an absolute masterpiece. I mean, how can it not be? You know, it's all one take. It's all one shot, there's no cuts. And if 1917 taught us anything, it's that the less cuts there are in your film, the less you need to worry about silly things like, is the dialogue good? Is the acting good? You know, is the film actually good? And in the case for Boiling Point, after recently rewatching it, it's unfortunately a hard no. No, it's not. Now, I understand the love people have for this film, and as someone who's been a working chef for many years now, it is hard to separate a realistic portrayal with whatever creative liberties are taken to market a chefy piece of media to the average Joe. And like I said, when it first came out, I liked it. I thought it was good. I thought it was a good film. But watching it now, as soon as you look past the impressive decision to make the film all one unbroken take, it really quickly becomes apparent how many flaws this film has. But anyways, to explain, let's start with the plot. So the film centres around head chef Andy as he tries to get through a busy service plagued with every single kitchen cliche you could possibly find by googling what happens in a restaurant. Which takes us to our first issue. I get it, it's nearly Christmas, you have 100 covers, which for a restaurant of this size isn't really all that much. But nevertheless, the amount of cliches that happen during this one service is so unrealistic. And for a film promoting the idea and being celebrated around the fact of finally being a realistic representation of how a restaurant functions, it's made laughable every time one of these cliches rears its head. Action stations, everyone! Right, it's going to be a big night tonight, guys. We have an inspection in the morning, we have a famous TV chef coming in for a meal, and oh look at that, he's brought a guest with him who just so happens to be one of the most famous food reviewers in the country. We're going to have a table of over-the-top racists.
They're not teaching people how to serve wine.
We have an Instagram influencer dining with us tonight. There's a proposal happening on table 13, and lo and behold, the woman being proposed to has a serious nut allergy that's not going to come back at the end of the film. And spoiler alert, but towards the end of service, our head chef's going to have a heart attack and die in front of all of our customers. It just gets to a ridiculous point where it seems every single possible thing that could go wrong in a restaurant goes wrong, and not in any way that feels actually realistic. But before I go any further, every single issue I have with this film boils down to one thing, and it's the thing that the film has been praised so much for. It's all one fucking take, and yeah, it's very impressive. You know, it's very difficult to do that. And don't forget, this isn't a film like 1917 or Birdman, where it's just made to look like one unbroken shot and they have hidden cuts throughout. You know, for a film, it's impressive. I mean, plays do it all the time, but no one gives a fuck about plays.
Not to fear, little children. I will help.
But in my opinion, that decision just makes the film worse. It does add some artistic value, it makes the film feel non-stop, it makes the pacing a lot faster, but the negatives really do outweigh the positives. There are countless instances where an actor will flub their lines and it instantly takes me out of the film.
Andrea, take that to take that to the kitchen.
Customers always right. Understand that the
I'm saying the
customers.
Should I just switch
Yeah,
out?
switch it out. It's a bottle of £200 bottle of red wine, that.
Because what keeps happening is players keep getting taken out because you're not fucking training your staff.
You don't have to put it on my
That's it. It's
It
perfect.
looks like.
And it's obvious why. There's an interview with the director where he talks about how there wasn't a full script that the actors had to abide by. They could kind of play around with the dialogue, but there were specific moments that the dialogue had to lead up to.
What I said to the actors was, look, you know, don't feel like tied down to this dialogue because, you know, people mess up in life, right? People stumble their words and things like that, and that's real, and that's what I wanted to sort of get across. So I just said to the actors, you know, just listen to each other and just go with it, you know.
And he kind of has a point here. Yeah, in real life people stumble over their words, but flubbing lines doesn't just automatically mean realistic dialogue. That's not how that works. The actors here all clearly have conversational destinations they're trying to force their way to, and every time they mispronounce a word or say the wrong thing, all it feels like is they've broken character and they're trying to get back on track. You know who never flubs their lines once in the entire film? Stephen Graham, and he just so happens to be the best actor here. That's not a coincidence. And you can't even blame the actors for making mistakes. A lot of them are fairly inexperienced, and so an hour and a half of one take is far too long. Almost every actor in the film, when it gets to their scene, looks visibly nervous. There are so many moving parts, and if you fuck up your moment, everyone's got reset and you've wasted everyone's time.
I was thinking as I watched it, is by that stage you're an hour in. So the stress on that other actor to get his lines, if he messes it up, you've got a whole cast have to start again.
Yeah.
Maybe if they rehearsed more and did a load of takes, they could have shot the majority without most of it feeling unnatural and without the odd moment where an actor fucks up a line or a cameraman misses their mark. But they only did 4 takes, which is insane. They could have easily split the film up into just 4 shots, stitched together with hidden cuts, and chosen the best take from the 4 for each shot. But no, Mr. Revolutionary over here had the genius decision to give their own production a handicap that ended up making the film worse. And I don't get why that bad decision that made everyone's job harder and made the film worse deserves this much celebration. It's a creative restraint that they willingly gave themselves. But the lack of proper rehearsals doesn't just show in the dialogue. One of the beauties of food-related film and TV is watching experts cook delicious meals. It's automatic viewer engagement. It's why cooking videos are so popular on YouTube. It's satisfying to watch. But for some reason, there's none of that in Boiling Point. Every time a ticket comes through, Stephen Graham and Vanette Robinson will just awkwardly walk around the kitchen pretending to do stuff, obviously being given no direction at all. That not only robs the viewer of some actually interesting insight to how a kitchen of this caliber functions, but again adds to the fact that no one really looks that busy here, despite us being constantly told that they are. Let's get into the meat and potatoes, the moments of conflict, because that's really what fills up the runtime and what gives the illusion of this film actually having a plot. Starting with the man who is racist. So a family is seated for a delicious meal and is approached by a blonde Caucasian girl, Robin.
I'm Robin, I'm going to be your waitress this evening.
There's a lovely polite exchange between the waitress and the father. There's pleases and thank yous, and it's beautiful.
Evening, guys. So sorry about the delay.
Oh, it's okay, don't worry.
Can I get you anything to drink?
Can I get a bottle of the Chateau Marie, please? Yeah, we'll take that bottle of Sauvignon Blanc as well, please. Yes.
Yeah?
Perfect.
Okay, great. I'll go get that for you and then I'll come back to take your food order. Thank you. Okay.
She's got expensive taste.
Rightly
and
so.
a bottle.
Sorry, what was your name? Robin.
But everything goes to complete shit when Andrea serves them with their wine a couple minutes later. A switch is all of a sudden flicked in this caveman Potato's brain and he suddenly becomes the most needlessly aggressive human on the planet.
Where's Robin? I'm here on time, yeah? Do they not teach you people how to serve wine? It's a bottle of £200 bottle of red wine, that. Let it breathe a little bit, will you?
Just let me know if you need anything.
Yeah, we will. What's that? That.
If you want, I can take it back.
No,
I'll take it back.
get your dirty fingerprints off my plate.
Whoa, just take it easy, man.
Now obviously my problem here isn't just with the concept itself. I've worked in hospitality my whole working life and this sort of thing does happen. But just for the mere fact that something does happen and is bad doesn't make it feel any less forced. I don't know if it's the acting, I mean the kids definitely suck.
Could I get cranberry juice? No cranberry juice. We're drinking wine tonight.
Dad,
You'll be fine.
Oh my God, he doesn't drink.
He's drinking wine tonight.
Okay, so the 2 bottles of...
But that or the unnatural progression of dialogue, just the whole scene just feels so comical.
Yes?
Yeah.
And then you have probably the most manipulative, desperate scene in the entire film. So the scene begins, Andy walks through into the kitchen and he's constantly telling this kid to roll his sleeves up. But then this other chef does it for him and we see this.
You're going to get in a right mess if you don't start to... What are you doing?
Nothing comes of this. And to me, it feels like nothing more than just a manipulative attempt to integrate some sad drama. And I completely get it. This sort of thing is real, it's emotional, and a lot of people have experienced this. But surely this is the definition of cheap. I've heard people say before that they found this scene emotional because they sympathised with this character. But he doesn't have a character. This short scene, which by the way is pretty much the only scene where these two people have any dialogue, adds no context to anything. It doesn't inform us of anything except for this character is going through something outside of work. And why do we as the audience need to know that? What does that do for us? You could argue that's real life. Everything doesn't always connect. These characters' lives are still going on outside of the workplace, and not everything that's shown in this film has to matter to the broader story. But as I've already established, by this point this film has done nothing to sell me on its realism, which in turn makes this scene feel forced, cheap and manipulative. What I said earlier about the dialogue feeling unnatural because there's a clear end goal the actors are trying to get to is probably most prevalent here. Vinette and the duty manager have a big argument about nothing.
It's fine, we've sorted
Well,
it.
what's the problem?
There is no problem.
Yeah, but what's the problem? Why has it been sent back? I'm asking you what the problem was.
They said it was too pink.
Right, so the customer wasn't happy. That's what the problem was.
The problem is your staff isn't explaining how they did
my
it.
staff's problem. Because it is that. They've sent the plate back because they're not happy with the food. It's quite simple.
Off the bat, there's no actual conflict here. Just two people have been told to argue and so stutter through awkward nonsense that if it was written would be shit, but because the actors clearly made it all up on the spot, it's suddenly the prolific scripture of a 19th century poet. And yet it's so impressive. It was all shot in one take. But when I'm supposed to be engrossed in a scene in a film, I don't really want to watch the actors halfway through a sentence try and remember what was on the script.
You know, maybe. Okay, maybe.
Is that too much to ask? It just baffles me that anyone thought that this would work. That almost an hour into only their third take, with barely any rehearsal or direction given, they could just ad-lib an argument. Towards the end of this made-up argument, the camera fixates on the front of house lady like, oh my god, it's so serious, it's so impactful, these words are hurting her so much. The film clearly wants me to care about this argument, despite the fact that you can see the actors making it up on the spot. And then the film wastes more of our time by having the argument end, front of house lady walks off to the toilet, shuts the door, and then just stays in there for a full minute. What is that?
That you don't even know that you've done it, do you?
Okay.
Do you realise that you were overbooked?
Barley.
No?
Has she overbooked? Because you're standing there doing nothing. Let's move on to the conclusive conflict. The nut woman. The moment she's introduced at the start of this film, you instantly know how this film's going to end. It doesn't add tension, it breaks it. I've mentally accepted that this poor woman's going to get a nut in her somehow, and the majority of this film is just me waiting for it to happen. And lo and behold, she does. She does get a nut in her. I guess the way she ingested the nuts was pretty well done and subtle, but then the fallout from it's pretty anticlimactic. Like the paramedics come, they give her some oxygen, and then kind of it. When I first had the idea to review this film, I wanted to give an example of a similar premise being done right. And I was initially going to look at season 1 episode 7 of The Bear. A portion of a service at a restaurant all filmed in one take, but with high stakes, fast pace and good well-flowing dialogue. But then I found out Boiling Point's based off a short film made by the same people. And it's good. It's really good. The difference between these two films is crazy, but it's clear that all this film did that was different was hiring good actors that had time to rehearse, well thought out direction for the actors, and here's the real $1 million idea: it's not an hour and a half. This short film is the perfect length. There was no reason to staple over an hour onto it. The scenes of conflict here actually work. Every argument feels like it's rooted in some sort of history between the characters.
There is the receipt. Thank you.
Chef, I want a word over here.
Okay, let's get back to work properly.
Firstly, that was embarrassing. You embarrassed me because you were rude and we've spoken about it. And second of all, that is not acceptable.
Well, he's doing
Not
his
being
job.
spoken to like
He's
that in
doing
my
his job.
house. I don't
We're
care.
working in this
I don't
kitchen.
care. Rude.
Fuck off, Daddy's girl. I love a bit of time off, but we can't have the time off. What did I tell you at the beginning?
That this is all that matters,
What did I tell you about his job right at the beginning?
This is all that matters.
This is all that matters.
Chef, look, I was only asking. I've not fucking seen him in ages.
I haven't seen my kids. Just fucking get out of my sight and crack on. And I'll tell you what, just play the fucking game, will you? Yeah?
Yes, chef.
And contrary to the feature-length version, it feels like the people who made this actually know what working in a kitchen is like. One moment this team of chefs are screaming at each other, the next moment they're laughing and joking.
Hey, Noddy! Look at Noddy here. Oh, fuck up with this Noddy. What about your fucking hat? What's wrong with this, eh?
Clean it up. Clean it up, fucking red hot chili shoes. Clean it up with you. Get it cleaned up now.
And this take is only 18 minutes long, which means it doesn't have to fill up the runtime with forced conflicts from every other character. The whole point is it's a snapshot into this head chef's life. He's overcome with stress in his work and home life, he's drinking, he's taking drugs, the pressure and strain weighing down the man's brain culminates in this service that we're peeking into. And then he dies. And the reason why that ending works here and not in boiling piss is because the focus shifts way too much. The hour and a half version isn't just about Andy, it's about everyone who works in this restaurant. And it has to be because it's that long. And having all of these different conflicts spread out onto all of these different characters shifts the focus away from Andy, which would be fine if it didn't just have the exact same ending as the short film. It makes it feel less like a Jenga tower getting higher and higher until it inevitably falls, and more like a game of Monopoly where it's game over because the top hat had a heart attack. Point is, in one of these films the death is earned and the other it's not. But look, at the end of the day, I do commend this film. I commend it for its overconfidence, that it really thought it could pull something like this off instead of falling hard on its face. They took a risk with this film, but the amount of praise it garnered, regardless of whether the risk paid off or not, was it really a risk after all? The short film just goes to show the people involved had the potential to pull off something great here, but every flaw and missed opportunity has to be taken into account. They tried something new and innovative, and it didn't work, and that's okay. But, you know, that's all I really have to say. Yeah, bye.